Hello again, everybody. This is Derek, and I am coming back at you with an announcement video about my Harn campaign. If you are watching this, you might have been following me on my channel, watching our players progress through a Harn campaign. Through Caldor as knights and going on adventures, etc., etc. Okay, so this is an announcement to let you know that that Harn campaign is actually over. I've decided not to run Harn any longer with the players that I have. I was going to recruit some new players and add them to the party to get to fill it back up, but this has really been a challenge for me, and I want to kind of give you a little bit of an idea of why I ended the campaign and what I had planned for the campaign. But we're not going to be playing Harn. Stay tuned to the channel because there might be another game starting. I'm thinking I might be running Traveler. So if that's something you might be interested in, contact me because I'm interested in getting some new players in Traveler. But also, if you just stay tuned to the channel if you want to watch some Traveler. If you're not familiar with Traveler, it's a science fiction role-playing game set in the far future, but it's set with like a little bit of reality. So if you think of things like Serenity, that is very Traveler-esque. You know, if you think of things like Star Trek or Star Wars, more Star Wars than Star Trek, but Star Trek is fantasy, where Star Wars also is fantasy, but it would fit, Traveler would fit more into a Star Wars than it would a Star Trek. But it's more like Serenity if you think about that. Okay, but yeah, the series Firefly. Okay, so let's go ahead and I want to talk a little bit about why I've made this decision. It's really three reasons. A difficult player is number one. Okay. The second is I had some players interested in playing Traveler, but I don't like running two games concurrently. I don't want to run one game and one game. So I've been kind of telling them, no, 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 because I'm running this Harn game, right? And then finally, a couple of weeks ago, I noticed that Mongoose had released some new books that I don't own, and so I've already gotten some of those new books in, and so that kind of like pushed me over the edge. Actually, that didn't push me over the edge. The difficult player is actually what pushed me over the edge. Okay, we don't really need to get into details of why I felt like this player was being difficult or why it rubbed me the wrong way. But let me just say that if I was to bundle this player into a category, I would say he is a rules lawyer. Okay? And what that means, if you're new to role-playing games, basically means if you're sitting around a table and one of the players has the rule book, right? And it's usually he's read it forwards and backwards, so he knows everything that's in the rule book, and that if you, as a game master, do something outside the rules or something that violates the rules, he will bring that up and he will let you know. Like, oh, you always open the door with your left hand. You know, you can't open it with the right hand because you get a minus to do that, or whatever. You know, I'm just making something up. But, so this player, nice guy. I don't have any problems with him personally. I think he's good intended, but it just rubs me to no end when someone tries to tell me how to run my game, right? Now, he knew or knows that I am new to the Harnworld, and so he felt obligated to tell me what the rules are. I know the rules. I read the rule book. I know how to run role-playing games. I've been running role-playing games since the 70s. This guy has also been playing games since the 70s. And he's got a lot of experience running games. He even boasts about how he's written modules or converted modules to Roll20 for Harn, right? So he said it 2 or 3 times, pushing the narrative that he knows better, right? So I'm going to stop there. This gentleman was constantly, nonstop, trying to get me to add macros, trying to get me to add APIs. He was trying to manage my game, which I appreciate the offer. Okay, don't misconstrue this. When he made the offer, I was like, oh, that's pretty nice of him to do. You know, I appreciate that. Unfortunately, we're just not going to be doing that. I don't want to use that macro. I made my own macros. I'm going to use my own macros. You know of an API. I don't want to use that API. Don't worry about it. Let's just move on. And then he pushed and he pushed. I know better than you. I'm more experienced in this game than you. You should do this. You should do that. I told him to stop. I said, hey, we're not doing this. Just stop. Just pump your brakes. Then he did it again. At that point, I'm like, okay, he's just trying to be nice. I told him again, stop. He did it a third time. I mean, it's months later, because I had a COVID incident where I was out for a month. But when we came back, he did it again. And he would tell the other players how to play their characters, because he would tell them, this is what you should do. This is how your character should act. It's not in character, like going up to him and saying, hey, this is what you should do. No, it was like, hey, Billy Bob, this is what you have to do if you want to stay in character. And that is frustrating, because, and now I'm going to put all that away. Let's just say I have a troubled character. I was thinking about kicking him out of the game. I really was thinking about just kicking him out of the game. But we had lost players through illness, mental illness, or work schedule, various reasons, right? Just understandable. Or one guy just wasn't having a good time, which, okay, I get that. If you're not having a good time, definitely step aside. Appreciate that. Appreciate him telling me he wasn't having a good time and it wasn't what he was expecting. That's okay. So he was gone. So we had lost so many players that we now only had 3 players. And one of them I was getting ready to kick. So that would have left me with 2 players. Which is no big deal. I can always, like in most campaigns, I would be able to just add characters and then just plug them in and we would just keep going with a new party. No problem. But with the story that I was running, it was pretty reliant on players having played in the first act. Now, I broke my campaign down into 3 acts. We had Act 1, which was introductions, discovery, learning, figuring out what was going on. Then Act 2 was getting the required items required to resolve the issue. And then Act 3 was going to be how do we implement all that and save the universe, right? Okay. At the end of this video, I'm going to tell you my whole synopsis of the campaign. So if you're interested in hearing that, that's great. I'm only going to summarize. I'm not going to like go into details like Joe is going to wipe his ass. No, it's not like that. Sorry. Okay, so we would add only 2 players, and that's okay. These 2 players are really fun. They've been with me since day 1. They enjoy the game. They love to role play. They're not rules lawyers. They don't concern themselves with that. They care about their characters' motivations, and that is really exciting to me. But with only 2 players, I was like, nah, I don't know if we can continue the game. I don't want to add anybody because we just finished Act 1, and they would be joining in Act 2, which would be okay, but I wouldn't be able to plug them in as pertinent characters. They would be supporting characters at that point, and that's no fun. So I said, screw it, we're just going to end the campaign. That was one reason why I decided to end the campaign. Another reason was I had a player wanting to play Traveler. He's been bugging me to play or to start a new Traveler, and then he made a comment which I took to heart, that he said he loves Traveler so much that he's thinking about running it himself. Well, that tells me that he likes Traveler almost as much as I do. So I think we're going to restart a Traveler campaign. Then finally, the last thing that the icing on the cake is that Mongoose, which is the Traveler that I play, I actually prefer Mongoose right now, Mongoose 2nd edition. They came out with an updated rulebook. It's 2022, actually. It's a year old. But I didn't know about this because I haven't really been focusing on Traveler. I've been focusing on Harn and D&D before that. So I looked at the Mongoose website, and there's about 5 or 6 or 10, 20, 100 different books that I don't have. So I went in and picked up the PDF. So I'm going to look through that and see what the differences are. And I got excited. It was like my blood started to boil again. I was like, yes! Traveler! New! Okay, so that's really what, once I saw that, I was like, okay, that's it. We're just going to end the Harn campaign, and we're going to move on to Traveler. Maybe. It's not a guarantee, not 100%. I'm putting feelers out right now to see if there's enough interest in a Traveler campaign, and if there is, if I get 3 plus maybe 4 or 5 players that are interested in playing Traveler, then we'll start a Traveler campaign. Okay, so that's what that is. That's really what made me decide to change. Okay, so let's talk about this campaign that I just ran. This is going to be a recap and a pre-cap, if you want to call that. a summary of this is what I wrote. I wasn't able to, I didn't fill in all the blanks. These are just main subjects that happen during the campaign, and then everything in between I'm allowing the players to kind of fill in and guide, right? But there are some main topics that hit, and the first act is the players make a character. They are all brothers, but they were all adopted by a knight. This is the story they hear. It's not true. They were adopted. They, when they turned 18 or 19, they were knighted, and they were sent off by their adopted father to make a name for themselves, hit the tournament scene. It's how he got his money. It's how he started. He fought in the different tournament scenes, according to him, and which is also not true. But that's the story that's the lie he gave to his kids. Go out, make a name for yourself. Okay. In Act 1, I had the players go to a tournament. In that tournament, there was some political intrigue that got them into the court, right? It got them an audience with the local noble in the end, right? Not going to go into all the details because it's really just minor adventures. And then once they got noticed, he sent them on a mission for him. This was, not only was this a mission for them, but it was also a test to see if they could be trusted or to see if they could be relied upon, right? So they went to this town that fought a troll, and, you know, all kinds of things happened. But one of the players who quit, but one of the players found his ancestral sword. He didn't, first of all, he thought his real father was a farmer. That's not true. All of these brothers had fathers that were all knights. These knights were compatriots or friends, or they worked together on various quests and things like that. You know, like Knights of the Round Table or whatever. And they're all Lorani knights, which they worship the Lady of the Paladins. Which, don't worry about the name. It's not a D&D paladin. It's just meaning a virtuous knight. That's all that means. And so she's a good guy, right? And so these knights had gone on adventures in history throughout the kingdom and extra outside the kingdom and all this stuff, and they developed a name for themselves in the church. And they found out that, or through their adventures and stuff like that, and through the church, they learned that there was a prophecy. Had nothing to do with them. But then they all got married. They were thinking of settling down. You know, it was like, it was time for them, their adventuring ways to kind of come to an end. And they all had pregnant wives. And then all their wives had children all within the same year. So that was very fortuitous, right? And the wives all died during childbirth. And there was omens that, and in this world, you take those for heart, like take those for real. So they had these omens that made them concerned about their kids. And their kids were prophesied to stop a demon god creature from entering this world, right? But they worried that their kids were in danger because anybody that knows the prophecy would try to kill them, while they were a baby, so they couldn't grow up to be to fulfill their destiny. So the Morgathian cultists have been looking for these kids for forever, right? And so the knights decided that they would hide out in various villages with their kids, and they did. And they would raise their kids, and they would change their name and act like local farmers or whatever. And so they raised these kids to about 12, and every now and then they would get together and they would say, what are we going to do with our kids? Our kids are part of this prophecy, and if we don't teach them or get them to learn the ways of being a knight, then they're going to suffer if they have to try to fulfill this prophecy. And they were proud of who they were, and they wanted their kids to have a good upbringing and stuff like that and not live in squalor. So they took their kids to their squire. They had a squire that attended to them and said, "These are our children. Take them in as your own, as adopted kids. Raise them to be knights, and don't tell them about us. Basically, keep a secret because we're in fear of their lives, right?" So what they did was they were started to be raised by their adopted father. They were raised to be knights. When they turned 18, he kicked them out and said, "Go make a name for yourself, do your thing, now that you're knights," and didn't tell them about their fathers being knights themselves, or the prophecy or any of that kind of stuff. And that's how it started. So then one of the players goes to this village. He finds his ancestral home and discovers in the floorboards that there is an ancestral sword in there, which kind of sparked a little interest, because swords are a knightly weapon or chivalric weapon where peasants or farmers are not allowed to own these. So that clued him in a little bit. Plus it's magical. I went into a new chapter in the first act. The new chapter was when the dragon attacked. Okay, so the dragon attacks a village, but he doesn't really attack, but he does. He claims that the cult forced him to do it because the cult had gone into his lair, took one of his eggs, his baby, and is holding the baby hostage in the egg form. And if he didn't obey the cult, they would kill the baby. They would crush the egg or whatever. Normally dragons are like, maybe I don't care, or maybe I do care kind of thing. Players don't know this. That's the story they were told. They find that in this town that got attacked, there was an artifact that's missing. We'll talk about that in a moment. It's part of the Librum, which is basically a giant scroll. So they recover this dragon's egg and they give it to the dragon. The dragon thanks them and says, "If you ever need me, I'll be up in the mountains," right? Okay, so that's not really what happened. Or that's not the truth. First of all, this egg is not this dragon's egg. It's another dragon's egg. The dragon working for, I'm not going to say, but this dragon is working for Chris. Chris is a lieutenant for this god demon that they're trying to summon. He's like an embodiment on this planet that has orchestrated this this whole thing. His plan is, Chris, is to get the 4 pieces of the Librum and a dragon egg and some other items that he needs to complete this ritual. And he wants to bring his lord, Morgath, into the world. And if he does that, it'll be a bad day for everyone. He promised this black dragon everything to the east of the lake. Right? You can see the lake directly right there. Everything to the east of that will be given to the dragon. He'll be the, or maybe it's to the west. I don't remember. It's one of those two. I think it's to the west. Everything to the west of that lake, the dragon will have total reign over, basically making him, 50% ruler of this land. Chris and Morgoth will be 100% rulers, but they would be like their governors, right? The dragon and this Lich King, right? This Lich King will be the governor of everything to the east of the lake. Okay, so this Lich King and this dragon made a deal with Chris to get these chunks of the Librum, which I'm not going to, which were sealed away where they couldn't be detected by magical means, and but Chris has been working for hundreds of years on a way to be able to detect the Librum in their locations. So he, over time, developed a way to break through that concealment. And then now he knows where the 4 pieces are, and he sent a dragon with cultists to get the first one. He sent the Lich King and some cultists to go get the second one, and then again the dragon for the third one and the Lich King for the fourth one. So the players are running around trying to stop these thefts, or these burglaries, if you want to call them. But first of all, they don't know where to go because the locations are hidden, and then but then there is the high priest in Kaldor discovered that there is actually rumors and hints at where these are all hidden, so they were able to send them to various places to stop. Now, the dragon, being a little manipulative and a little sly, told them where the Lich King was about to attack. Because once they gave him the egg, he's like, oh, by the way, if you go to that bridge, that's where the Lich King, or that's where the next cult attack is going to be. He didn't say Lich King, but he goes, that's where the next cult attack is going to be. You should make your way down there and try to stop them. He's faking that he's being helpful. But really, he's just trying to slow down or hurt the Lich King, because at that point they would be co-captains, of the land, and it's kind of like a power struggle. Like, he could go to Chris and say, "See, your Lich King buddy over here doesn't know what he's doing, so you should have sent me," that kind of deal. Okay, part of the ritual means you have to have a dragon egg that is freely given to the person performing the ritual, right? Or it has to be like a given egg. It can't be a stolen egg. So they stole the egg, these cultists, by order of the dragon, right? And then the dragon didn't care. He got the cultists killed because he knew these players would just go in and kill the dragon, or the egg, the cultist guarding the egg. And then they freely gave this egg to him. So now he has a freely given egg, and he goes up and he goes, "Oh, Chris, here, have an egg." So, and then at one of the locations, they learn that another dragon is looking for her egg, and she smells it on the players, and they say, "Oh, dang it, we gave it to the black dragon," and she's like, "Oh, crap," So, mad at the players for doing that, but also understanding that they're just weak-willed and humans, and they're not intellectual like dragons are and stuff like that. So she forgave them, but she wants them to help her get her dragon back, her egg back. Okay, that was never going to happen, because the dragon's already given it to Chris, and Chris is who knows where in the world. I didn't determine. I didn't care. Nobody's ever going to find him until Act 3. Okay, so I hadn't written that into the adventure yet. Let's back up a little bit. The Lich King. Okay. The King of Kaldor was sick. Literally, he was very sick. He had COVID. He had whatever he had. He and 4 of his most trusted knights, the players' fathers, went to go find a cure. He was going to travel across the entire land and find a cure for his ailment. Chris hears about this king with his personal bodyguard traveling the kingdom and the world. He approaches him and says, "You're about to die, right? You've got like chronic death disease. You're about to die. I can keep you alive in undeath, and I will give you half of the continent, but you'll have to work for me." And he agreed. He's not the best king of the world. So he agrees, and he gets turned into a lich, which normally you would think a lich would be a wizard. Well, he's not a wizard. He's just a dude that got, via decree of this god, Chris, turned into a lich. So they call him the Lich King. He had 4 knights with him, the fathers. Those 4 knights were also turned into undead knights, dark knights, black knights, whatever you want to call them. But the players don't know any of that, right? All they know is there is this Lich King out there, and he's got undead working for him, and he's trying to get these Librams. So they get all 4 Librams. They get an egg. Now they've got a few items out there they have to collect. That's really not important to the story. So the players at that point hear of a tale where this happened once before, a long time ago, where the Libram was used to summon the Morgath, but was thwarted. And then that's where these pieces were cut and hidden. But to cause that, to actually give them the power to stop it, they need this panoply, which is basically a helmet, an armor, a shield, and a sword, or something, I think. And so they had to go get these things, and these things were scattered in various kingdoms outside of Kaldor. The Dwarven Kingdom, the Lizard Kingdom, the Elven Kingdom, and also the Nords. So they're going to have to go. This is where Act 2 was going to start. They were going to go to these various locations, long travel between all the way up there at the top and all the way at the bottom and all the way to the mountains, and to find these pieces of this collection that when their power is combined, it gives like a bonus power to be able to stop whatever. It's just a story. So they were starting, and this is where the campaign ended. They were getting ready to go to the swamps and deal with the lizards and try to get the sword from the Lady of the Lake, right? From there, now this is where the summary happens. The precognition. They were going to go gather all these items. They were going to find out where Chris, the dragon, and the Lich King were all at, and they were going to have to go confront them. Now, this whole third act is not just one little incident, right? The third act, if you can see the lake right there under the mountains, that's Ponsbury Lake, whatever, that's where they needed to go. And the swamp right below. Okay, so wherever this location is, which was going to be way over on the left, or on your screen, the left, my right, or whatever, way over there? Yeah, right over here is where all the cultists were coming from, and that's where Chris is held up. There's a little town or a little kingdom right in this area called Retham. So they were going to go into there, and there's going to be all kinds of problems for them because that's kind of a evil kingdom. So that they were going to encounter in the final battle, they were going to encounter the Lich King, Chris, their 4 parents, the 4 knights. It was going to be a struggle for them, hopefully. That's the plan. But maybe they had picked up some allies along the way. The magic items that they picked up were going to give them supreme power and be able to defeat them. And then they're going to try to summon Morgath. And if they failed, Morgath was going to come into the world, and that would be the end of the world. Or if they defeat him, that would be the end of the campaign, because now they've succeeded and they've beaten the and the dragon might even be there too. So yeah, that was how the campaign was going to go. Okay, so unfortunately, we're not able to run that. I wrote it in a way where I felt like it was going to go on for a couple of years to do this, but I just don't want to deal with that player, and I don't want to run a game with only 2 players. I didn't want to start somebody in, or a couple of people in Act 2. So the way I now realize the way I wrote this campaign was very limited to player swap out. Bringing players in and out. If I do it again, I'm not going to make them all brothers raised by the same knight. I might make them separate that come together at some point during the adventure. That way new players could come in and be like, oh, I'm not your brother, but I'm part of the prophecy, or so it was told, or whatever, right? My name was specifically mentioned. No, but in that case, when they leave, they are not fulfilling the prophecy. So I'll have to try to figure out a way to reword that campaign in a way that works for player swap out. I wrote it in a way that it was kind of locked in. So that was a down, what do they call it? Like an oversight by me. All right, guys. Well, thanks. Maybe more Harn in the future. I love the world. The rules, they're okay rules. They're okay. Harnmaster's an okay rule set, but you can play with any rule set. So I don't know. Maybe we'll play some Harn in the future. Maybe I'll have to write a whole new campaign. I don't know. But look forward to maybe playing some Traveler. If you're interested, drop me an email. And if you're not, just stay tuned to the channel. And if we start a Traveler game, then... And that's another thing. Something that limited who could play in my Harn game was I required that everyone had a camera. Right? I'm not going to do that this time. You don't have to have a camera. Just to understand that we're going to be streaming live, but maybe you'll just have a picture of your character on the bottom, you know, where if you want to be on camera, I would appreciate it, and that would be great. I could put you over your picture, but if you don't want to be on camera, because I have a friend that suffers from anxiety, and he says that he doesn't want to be on camera. And so it kind of got me to thinking that maybe there's more than just him out there in the world, that the only reason why they never applied was because I required them to be on camera. Plus, we played late. We played from 7 to 11. My previous campaign, we played from like 5 to 10, right? 7 to 11 was only 4 hours, which I thought was a better allotment of time. But 5 to 10 is like 5 hours, but it starts way earlier. So I'm thinking maybe 6 to 10. That way it's earlier. The reason why I started at 7, and this is the God's honest truth. The reason why I started at 7 was because I know that there are people that live on the West Coast. They live there. There's a lot of role players that live in California, right? They might have wanted to play. And if I start at 5, that's like 3 in the afternoon for them. They're probably still at work. And if I start at 7, then it's 5 p.m. They still might not be home from work, but at least it opened it up for a little bit more. But what I wound up getting was all East Coast and Central. I only got East Coast and Central. Actually, I got some foreign people that didn't realize that we were playing in Central Time. They had to drop out before the game even started. But I think I'm going to adjust the time. And it doesn't necessarily have to be Wednesday. We can play on a different day of the week. I'm open. It can be any day. I just didn't want to step on other streamers' toes. I didn't want to play when I know there are super popular streams out there that play on Thursdays, right? Or Mondays, or whenever. But what I'm going to do is, if there are some players that are interested, I'm going to ask them what the best time and day is to play. If it's Sunday morning, then that's what we'll do. If it's Tuesday at midnight, then that's what we'll do. But I'm going to give them an opportunity to tell me when the best time is. But I obviously have a veto power. Like if somebody wants to play at Sunday at 3 a.m., I'm going to be like, wait, hold on. Hold on. I got to watch my football. All right. All right, guys. So thanks for coming out and checking this out. And I will see you in the next one.